Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Just to give a little bit of housekeeping and go over some details just to start. So this is part of our series that we are partnering with Keebo on. This is our third webinar in this series on smart spending in Snowflake, mastering the optimization, performance tuning, cost management, all of the things that you are interested in learning more about when you are getting started with these technologies and you're just trying to maximize how much value you can get out of them while balancing cost. So today we have a very wonderful panel of three experts in this space with us, Jyoti, Mary, and Aditi. We will get right into the panel after I cover a couple more housekeeping items. As always, if you have any questions, drop them in the chat if you're having any issues. Depending on the time we have, we may have time for audience questions, but we also may not, depending on what our discussion looks like. All right, so first 5 minutes, we're just going to go over some housekeeping, have a little introduction of what Women in Analytics is, how you can get involved, and then introduce our sponsor, Keebo. We'll have a short video, and then we'll get right into our panel. So this series is on mastering Snowflake optimization, performance tuning, and cost management, all about optimizing performance while managing the cost and balancing what that looks like as you're trying to scale up something like this, making sure you are working efficiently and you are aware of the best practices, any challenges, and how you mitigate some of those. So this is our third webinar in the series. We have had a couple of other very wonderful guest speakers on. So those have been recorded if you're interested in watching back and learning all you can about Snowflake in this space. A little bit about Women in Analytics. Our mission is to increase the visibility to women and gender minorities in this space, in analytics, data science, ML, AI, by giving a platform for those individuals to share their expertise in this space. And if you would like to get involved, we have an annual conference called Data Connect. We also have a lot of events just like these webinars throughout the year. If you are interested in connecting with others in this space, people who are as enthusiastic about analytics and data as you likely are, you can join our community for free. You can either follow this QR code or go to womenanalytics.com. If you have any questions, please message us at info@womenanalytics.com and someone from our team will get back to you. If you have any questions, again, just drop them in the Q&A. If you're having any issues, again, send us an email. And if you want to keep up with all of the things that are going on and hear from more experts all across the data and analytics space, you can sign up for our newsletter. So you get all of the alerts and you can make sure that you're signed up for more webinars just like these.
To save on Snowflake, you could stare at queries trying to make them faster, or tweak warehouse parameters by trial and error. Or you could use Keebo, the only fully automated Snowflake optimizer. Our patented AI constantly evaluates dozens of parameters to make the right adjustments at the right time. We set up in minutes, and you'll start saving in just a couple days. Contact us for a demo, and we'll show you how.
All right, so that set the stage. Again, thank you so much to Keebo for sponsoring this series and helping us have this webinar and these others as just a way for experts in this space to share some very helpful tips and strategies with others who are interested in learning more. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I think it's time to get into our panel. So Aditi, Jyoti, Mary, thank you all so much for joining us. And I'm so excited, as I know likely our attendees are as well, to learn from your experiences, learn some best practices, and really just understand the realm of what's out there, what we can be doing to improve how we're using Snowflake. So just to get started, I would love to hear just a little bit about your roles and how you work with Snowflake on the day-to-day. Aditi, would you like to start?
I can go first. First of all, thank you for inviting all of us. A quick introduction about myself. Hi, everyone, based out of Raleigh, North Carolina. I am a managing director with Accenture's Data and AI practice, focuses on modern data architectures and platform. I do have another role in Accenture as Snowflake COE or practice lead. So I have been working on core Snowflake migration modernization projects since 2019. So a lot of experience, a lot of learnings, and today's topic is really very much relevant because a lot of clients who have been on Snowflake for a while are still struggling with managing costs.
Absolutely. And in that time, I'm sure you've learned a lot of best practices and you've refined some strategies that can help others get started and dive right in. Mary, would you like to go next?
I'm so sorry, my internet just cut out for a second. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, of course. Just a little bit about your role and how you work with Snowflake.
Thank you so much. Sorry about that. I'm having a weird internet day. Yeah. So hi, I'm Mary. I am the head of engineering at Keebo. Yeah, so our team works with Snowflake in sort of an interesting way in that we use it a lot for testing. As you might imagine, because Keebo is built on top of Snowflake. And so yeah, we actually use Snowflake a lot, both for data analytics, but also mostly for testing out our connectivity and various features that we're building.
Awesome. And Jody, what is your role and how do you work with Snowflake? Oh, you are on mute.
I'm having a mute day. Mary. Hello, everyone. My name is Jyoti Pathak, and I'm so happy to be here in this panel. I have been working with Snowflake since 2019 when it was pretty new and kind of like introduced to organizations. I was heading Fortune 50's data analytics practice at that time, and we were dealing with not having the scalability, not having being able to support data science use cases and all. So at that time, I brought in Snowflake, exploded, implemented it, and created the data science innovation hub or innovation lab type of solution on Snowflake, as well as created the customer data platform. And our ROIs were like 40K Snowflake credit to 150 million profit. So it was like 200, 300% profits that we were generating just out of the Snowflake, use cases. Fast forward, I'm a proud Snowflake data superhero, having such a successful career with Snowflake, or I would say use cases. I'm one of the 80 Snowflake data superheroes in the world. Recently, I embarked on a new adventure as a founder and CEO of my own company, my own organization named Clipium. And I'm a Snowflake Blue partner, and I help companies get started on Snowflake, do their generative AI practices, and fuel the growth across industries.
Amazing. So a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different experiences, and most importantly, a lot of really good expertise in the room, the virtual room with us. And now that we've talked a little bit about the tech challenges of being on Zoom, we'll get into some of the benefits and then also the challenges of working with tools like Snowflake. So the first question I want to ask is really to just dive into the core of this topic, cost management itself. And a lot of times I think this comes up later on when you're thinking about technologies, but why, when you're working with platforms like Snowflake, is cost management an important consideration of your overall business strategy early on? Mary, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, so this is a great one because it is true that it does come up later on. And I think especially if you're a startup, your first goal is just get the product out the door, get customer feedback. And I think that is actually maybe I'll be a little bit contrarian and say, like, if you are a startup and you're starting a brand new product and you're just trying to get a product out the door, like, maybe don't worry about Snowflake costs on day one. But what we've seen is as you scale, as you start to get product market fit, you really need to worry about costs. I would say that, like, even Keebo, we use Keebo for Snowflake as well, and we've been using it to reduce our costs because we've been hitting a lot of cost issues for Snowflake on our own as well. One use case I think that's a really clear case for wanting to worry about costs at the beginning is if you're migrating from something to Snowflake. Like you already have product market fit, you have some sort of like large data store and you're migrating to Snowflake, day one is the right time to worry about costs because you already know your costs are going to be massive. And it is true that there's some things you can do up front that will make your life a lot easier. Making sure you know who owns what warehouses up front, making sure you have like budgets per warehouse, things like that. Those are things that when you do them up front are so much easier than having to like backtrack and do it later.
Absolutely. Aditi, Jody, any thoughts on the benefits of that upfront cost management as a strategy?
I think, Mary, you touched upon a very good point. A lot of organizations on the move of modernizing, right? Because a lot of organizations are currently on cloud, but now Snowflake is evolving more as a platform. I think what they are lacking is a proactive cost monitoring strategy. Unfortunately, this always becomes a reactive mode by the organizations. That's what we typically see across clients, right? After a few months, they start noticing a bump and complete deviation from the projection that they had, either from Snowflake or their own understanding, right? So, being proactive on this, making sure this is on your agenda of migration modernization, that we need to have a work stream focusing on cost monitoring itself will be the, I think, first pivotal point to do it in a rightful way. um, and anyways, we'll talk about the details, but there are so many techniques. The misnomer is a lot of clients think it's a self-managed platform, but you have to remember things are only self-managed and optimal when they are done mindfully, not just dumping everything right onto the platform.
And I would like to add to that is, you need to understand it's a pay-as-you-go model. So many clients are, when I was working in this Fortune 50 company, we were on-prem system, on-prem, and we were dealing with licenses, not credits at that time. So from a data leader's mindset, or the decision making's mindset, they are not in that model yet where it's like, okay, I have bought like 100K of Snowflake credit and now I have this much that I could use. So that pay as you go model needs to be kept in your mind, and then you have to keep a tab on your uses so that you can reduce the waste, because Snowflake is all about innovation. How can you utilize what you have got and then provide your team that innovation, that platform where they can do more in less? So keeping a tab on cost, or having I would say it's more about management more than tab. Like how can you manage your cost so that you do innovation, you can scale, and then you are financially sustainable and you can craft your success story.
I think that that is a great answer. You've all kind of touched on this, but this is something that I feel like we see with a lot of tools we talk about in data and analytics, is helping us move from that reactive to the proactive decision making, because that does help us scale and become more efficient. And so specifically thinking about these cost management strategies, how can that itself enhance the efficiency and performance of an organization? Mary, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I love this. I think that one trap people can get stuck in is thinking that optimizing for cost and optimizing for performance are opposite. But what we've found is that when you really dive in to understand usage patterns on your system, where the load's coming in, where you have peak load, where you have less load, how different teams are using the platform, you find there are actually a lot of ways that you can gain insights into both how you can improve performance and also improve cost. And so I think taking that time to gather those insights and look at where your warehouses might be imbalanced, or where their performance isn't as strong, you can find places where you can actually get a win-win, and say like, oh, actually, I've noticed that we have these performance issues on this warehouse, but these performance issues only exist on, I'm going to just pick like Mondays at 8 p.m. And so now I know, great, I can upsize this warehouse during this time to deal with these performance issues, but then I can actually downsize it during the rest of the time. And so I'm able to improve performance for my customers, but also reduce costs. So I think getting the insight really allows you to make better decisions about scaling, both from a performance and a cost perspective.
Absolutely. Any other thoughts on this one?
And I would just add to Mary what I was saying earlier is like when you do cost management, it enhances efficiency and performance, but it also avoids over provisioning, like which we call wasting resources. And it's wasting as well as underutilization. So where you are overutilizing, where you are underutilizing, so it actually balances your platform and your use cases so that you get that boost in your performance for your critical tasks that need that boost at that time, like 8 a.m. Everybody comes to the office and runs the query, right? So you need that boost at that time, or maybe 1 a.m. at night, nobody's doing anything. So when you balance it that way, you actually get more out of your, I would say more bang out of your bucks. And, you can use that spending um, by, channeling it to the innovation and other cool projects. Because, I have done that in my career, and I trust me, your team will love that extra boost in their use cases so that they can test it out. A lot of use cases that normally lots of team doesn't have time or resources to do that.
Absolutely. And so now kind of getting into the how of it all, Aditi, what kind of techniques or tools do you use to help effectively monitor and manage some of the costs of a Snowflake platform?
So, it varies considering we work with different scale of clients, right? So, and we definitely touched upon some tactical steps as well. But if you're talking of very big organizations that are doing massive Snowflake work, right, you have to, what has worked for a lot of our clients and how we approach it is definitely Snowflake offers resource monitoring. Keebo, I know, is another tool that's going to bring that kind of insight and proactive monitoring as well, right? But sometimes if the organization is massive, it's an uncontrolled territory of people using it. Creating sub org structures in your accounts may also help, because then you give accountability to different subunits within the firm as well. See, we all have to remember technology can control to a certain extent only. Beyond that, it is behavior and the process that's going to bring the efficiency, right? If you are bringing that accountability in different subgroups, that you are accountable for this kind of budget or the compute cost and you will pay beyond, then definitely that rigor automatically comes beyond the rigors that we're talking from technology. But coming back to your technical aspect, we have implemented, as well as Accenture, we have implemented a lot of cost optimization, or I will say more of a FinOps kind of mechanisms on Snowflake, where it's not just controlling the or triggering the flags or emails when thresholds are reached. It's also reading the patterns through AI, ML, and then automatically triggering some of the rules that will spin down warehouses. Though lots of things have also changed on Snowflake now. There are suspend options. You have options to even put timelines on the queries, right? So things have advanced. I think there is no one straight answer. It all ties back to the use case. That's where I say proactive measure is very important rather than reactive, because doing when you already have burnt your hands by bills, then it's kind of like you are trying to do in hurry, and it will not be optimal too.
That makes a lot of sense. Any other thoughts on the tools and techniques and the effectiveness and the value that comes from investing
Yeah,
in
I would add that, in a Snowflake, you already have a lot of built-in resources available to monitor or to keep an eye on your compute, your storage, your services cost. That will give you like a fitness tracker for your data spend, right? You will be able to look at those results, sorry, on a daily, weekly, monthly, or as on-demand basis, where you know that I have this much credit, and this is my forecast on a weekly, monthly, and quarterly basis, which gives you a very good idea of where are you going? When you do a sales forecasting, like what's your target? Have you met it? Are you going to overspend? Or are you underspending? And then you channelize it that way. Keebo or there are other third-party visualization tools which helps you just with a plug and play, which provides you this dashboard where leaders can go or teams can go and monitor it. Besides that, you can put an automated alert systems where, if it meets like a threshold, like I used to have a monthly automated alert system where if it meets some like a marketing team's threshold for that month, the alert used to go to the marketing leader as well as us, where we know, hey, this is where we need to pay attention. And then as Aditi was mentioning, it's all about having a FinOps practice in your organization. The moment you go to cloud, you need to have a FinOps practice, which is more, aligned to your department or your organization for your cloud spending.
Yeah, one thing I love that both of you have mentioned is that there's this practice that needs to happen. And like I almost might call it almost a culture change or a culture shift for some people, where you need to make sure that it is constantly in the back of your engineer's head. How is this going to impact cost? How is this going to impact the bottom line? And that takes time. And I think these like tools, like yes, Keebo is one of them, but there's tons of visualization tools out there and tools that can show you and that can automatically analyze your Snowflake spend, but being able to surface that to your engineers and then reinforce how important it is an important way to like have that FinOps practice. And so yeah, it is interesting because it can kind of be a culture shift that you have to do on your organization in addition to the tools that you're introducing.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. So you're in this type of investment in making sure that cost management is an essential part of the strategy. It really also becomes part of the role of those working with Snowflake. And so specifically with the monitoring side, when you're setting that up to proactively alert, like you mentioned, Jyoti, or to control some of those expenses, who is in the room? What does that setup process look like? What does it look like getting that started and then making sure that you're continuously looking at what's being monitored and making decisions with that? Aditi, do you have any thoughts?
Definitely it ties back to either you are leveraging some of the basics from Snowflake itself. Snowflake offers resource monitoring to begin with, right? But it comes with its basic, I will say, dashboards. Then you can bring in some of your own third-party tools. But then, see, we touched upon the innovation theme a couple of times, and Jyoti mentioned about it, right? These days, a lot of our engineers are so hungry to try and test their hands, right? So allocate these kind of jobs to your own engineering teams, right? Build up frameworks, build up ML frameworks that can read some of the insights from the dashboards and trigger some of the policies on the warehousing. So I think there are a lot of different mechanisms. It doesn't tie back to just a technical aspect. People definitely, but then I think one very basic thing that we all so far have not talked about is a platform can give you just to a utmost extent, right? But how you have built your architecture, how you have built the table structures, how you have built the data or the processing on the Snowflake, it all plays a very big pivotal role in how compute cost will come together, right? So it's not just platform taking accountability of how things have to be done. If your engineering teams or architecture teams are thinking well enough, they are using the right set of features, right? I'm quoting you examples from very big clients who have been on Snowflake for 5, 6, 6 or 7 plus years, and still they are not capitalizing the value of data sharing or zero data copy clone services, right? Then anyway, see, it's not a situation with the platform. It's about your own ability to adapt and monetize the value of platform, right? That's where the gap is, and it has continued to exist. How many organizations are leveraging what actually Snowflake offers? It has a vast offering of services that can make it very cost efficient, but unfortunately it becomes a play of just moving to a modern platform, running it for analytics, now starting up containers for LLM. So it's more about the education as well, that have you leveraged the best of platform or you are just doing the basics on platform, right? It's a combination. It's not a straightforward answer, but there are different techniques, education, monitoring, focus, a lot of things coming together.
Yeah. And I would add to that, Aditi, is like, don't go too hard on cost cutting. You might slow down performance, right? It's all about, I used to explain it this way to the C-suite. It's all about like your budget. Like you set up a budget for your household or any other use cases, and you use credit card if you guys are using credit card. So when you are using credit card, you are swapping it for every goods and services you're getting. Same way, Snowflake is providing you all those services, and for those services you are paying. You pay as you go. So what works best for your household? How do you keep tab on your budget? Like what are your essentials? What are your non-essentials? And you keep reviewing it. It's not like a set and forget goal. It's like you review it as a data leader. You have now become more like a service provider than a consumer. So you work with your teams, your marketing teams, your finance teams, whoever is like in your self-service analytics, whoever are your customers now within your organization, you work with them. You help them provide those visibility. You need to give them that visibility. This is what you provided, the budget, and this is where it's going. And then education, people need to be comfy with their spending as well as knowledge. So all these things together sets anybody with that success to utilize Snowflake in a best way.
Yeah,
I
I
love
love. I'm sorry, I was
Okay.
going to say
Yeah.
I love what both of you said it. And then Aditi, you mentioned something about architecting systems that way, and I think both of what you said, Jyoti and Aditi, together, like those work really well together because if you architect the systems up front to make it easy to track, like which teams are using which spend, it makes it so much easier. Because to your point, Jyoti, it'll be like a budget, right? That you set, and it's really easy to show here's what your spend is, and then they can make it their own decision about like what's the ROI on that spend. That's great.
Yeah, I think you've all touched on some very, very important aspects of working with a tool like Snowflake. And something that I feel like is coming out is the culture, which was touched on as well. I know we talk a lot about data literacy and the importance of data literacy in advancing our organizations. I'm almost hearing you touch on this need for the data tool literacy to be a part of that as well. And I think that's a very, very useful call out for folks with organizations that are investing in something like this. So the culture can be a challenge itself. That can be one of the roadblocks as you're investing in something like this. What are some of the other challenges that you could encounter when you're implementing these cost saving measures and monitoring? Mary, any thoughts?
Yeah. I really liked what Jody said earlier, which was that one risk that you have is performance. So while you're implementing these measures, it's important to keep track of what you're either implementing tooling to, if you're implementing tooling to measure that's one thing, but when you're actually actively making optimizations, you do need to worry about performance. We've definitely, I would say that like at Keebo, like we have many customers that are worrying about their cost savings on Snowflake. And a common mistake they make is they're just like, well, we'll just make everything an extra small. Everything's going to be an extra small and then we'll save money. But what they find out is that they're missing SLAs or they're hitting lots of problems with performance. And so I think one hurdle that people run into is if they're not being thoughtful about the way that they're approaching cost savings, then they can cause performance issues. And then that actually loses trust with your internal customers or even external customers, right? You lose that trust. And I think it's of course difficult to lose trust with your external customers for obvious business reasons, but if you lose that trust with your internal customers, then they're going to be less motivated to keep track of spend themselves and worry about spend because they'll get in their head like, like they're just going to hurt our performance. So I think that's like one risk that you always have to mitigate.
That's so interesting. As we kind of get into these, talking about the trade-offs of this, the performance versus the cost management, Jody, what are some of your thoughts on how you balance that need for cost savings and that high performance that eats up some of the cost?
Uh, it's tied to what Mary was saying earlier. You have a certain techniques that you can put in as cost for the cost saving and performance optimization. Again, both go hand in hand. So you cannot have a huge performance optimization with, a lot of cost saving. You have trade-offs like where you need to balance it all together. Some of the techniques that I have used are, the most common is warehouse auto suspension, right? You put the warehouse auto suspension in a mode where it suspends every 30 seconds if it's not being used. But then the trade-off could be like it gets suspended or it gets resumed too many times and too often. It may cause delays during your busy time, and you will have frustrated customer or frustrated team. Um, Another one that I have seen is the storage optimization. Sometimes we end up keeping heck a lot of data in the storage, which is not needed. And then it impacts our storage cost as well as it also impacts our CPU power. So how do you, reduce that intelligently so that you don't incur a lot in that? So of course, you're going to do auto suspension of the warehouse, but you have to have the trade-off of, the performance. How do you balance it up? Storage, and, sometimes it's all the clustering, where, you can scale resources up and down with auto clustering, but then again, you end up with the performance hiccups where when the demand spikes. So whenever you were doing cost saving techniques, Snowflake offers a lot of cost saving techniques, but the best practice is always that you start slow, then you test it out, then you again test it out, and then you have to keep that housekeeping or the management regularly.
I think that that's a great advice, especially the start slow and then build while you're planning intentionally for cost saving and ensuring that you meet the performance you need. Aditi, do you have any examples of times you've either given recommendations or you've seen through some of these cost saving techniques and how you balanced some of those trade-offs with performance?
Well, I think both Jyoti and Mary talked about it, but I think uh, if traditionally you have had an organization that had multiple warehouses, data marts, right? If you're going to modern platforms, it doesn't have to be the same way, right? You have to break those barriers within your own firm. A lot of organizations and enterprises these days call that we are modernizing and going to central data platforms, but again, building those sub-siloed warehouses, right? The more you're building, the more you are spiking up the compute cost. Then sizing we spoke about, right? Definitely, it takes time. It's not that the first month itself, as you migrated or modernize something, you will be in the most perfect spot, right? You will learn and learn from your own observations, and it will give you some understanding of what sizing is working for your warehouse, how you are configuring the query timeouts, right? Because all these small things lead up to the compute cost. If you think Snowflake, the biggest cost factor is from compute rather than storage or other elements, right? Are you leveraging transient tables? Are you leveraging materialized views, right? Because see, end goal for most of our customers are dashboards or some kind of downstream applications consuming data or analytics running on this data, right? How optimized your queries are, what are the best mechanisms you are using on the queries. A lot of these small factors play a major massive role in how your compute cost would be. So I think I'm again coming back to the point of architecture is very important, ensuring that when people are building, even if they did not have time in the first place to build it in most optimal manner, but keeping it as a regular cadence to optimize what you have built is very important. A lot of clients are drifting towards the mindset of benchmarking, performance benchmarking. I think that should also be always a theme of your modernization play. Have you checked how it's working now? If you got an uplift in performance, what is the change in the TCO, right? All of those proactive rigors will automatically lead you to in a better direction, and that's where I genuinely believe cost monitoring strategy is a must have. whenever you are modernizing or moving to any new platform, because a lot of these things by default come into it.
Yeah, I think a common theme that is coming out from all of the points you're making is that starting slow, doing it right from the start, and helping your team members understand what that right process looks like. And sometimes that's setting up the culture. Sometimes that's, like you said, breaking it down and building it up in a different way that works better for you. And so, as we are kind of getting into our last series of questions, I would love to really tap into some of the advice and recommendations that the three of you have gathered over your years in this. So, if you are an organization investing in this, looking to do this in a way, work with Snowflake in a way that is sustainable and scales long term to long term savings, what are your best practices for balancing efficiency, scalability, along with cost?
Maybe I'll start. So, see, if you are new to the platform, have a very well defined approach or strategy. List out the patterns that will exist on the new platform, right? And then have a very deep dive exercise on sizing your warehouses, looking at what are your patterns of queries running, right? What is the time frame? What are opportunities of optimization? Unfortunately, a lot of clients who are still in the mode of moving from clouds now onto these platforms think it's a easy lift and shift. But in my journey so far in corporate, I've never seen anything 100% lift and shift. Nothing works lift and shift, right? So there has to be an optimization. You have to find ways to improve. Otherwise, there is no point moving on to a new platform. You're not going to get the value. So I think that has to be kept as a proactive thought while you're trying to move to platforms like Snowflake or others.
Yeah,
That's a
I,
great
I I would add to that is a strong governance is needed. So when you start implementing Snowflake, of course, the right architecture is the first step. But then if you take a little step before that, it's also setting up the right governance where your policies ensures everyone is on the same page. And you can utilize your platform and not waste it. And you can also promote the smart cost optimization. I would call it smart spending, but it's more smart optimization and performances. So those are important facts. And what I totally agree with what Aditi was saying earlier. Um, but if you go into Snowflake itself, Snowflake provides a lot of cloud native features within its platform, which are built-in goodies like time travel, data cloning, multi-cluster warehouses. These are all they all help with efficiency and cost-effective operation. So so when you're implementing Snowflake, go deep dive, take help and utilize all these features. Also, features are available to other vendors, but you have to really not just say plug and play and start, but take the right step so that it ensures your long-term success.
Yeah, I love that. And I think both Aditya and Jyoti have mentioned this this concept of like planning ahead, architecting things. I think that you can right size planning ahead to whatever size effort you have, right? Like even if it's a really small use case, like just write down how am I planning to use this? What goal am I trying to solve? Like what problem am I trying to solve here? How am I going to architect this? And then like spin up a little POC to test out load and see how things are working. Um, and then that's like a small scale, and then of course up to a large scale, it's like okay, we're doing a massive lift and
Yeah.
shift, right? And I love what Aditi said, like it never works out of the box. That's not a thing. And so there's always going to be some like performance tuning, some testing, some chain like engineering work that has to happen. And so doing that plan up front and saying, here's what I'm trying to do. Here's my plan for how I'm going to do it. Here's my architecture plan. And then starting out a POC and seeing how your architecture plan needs to change from there. I think that works from a small scale all the way up to a large scale,
Yeah.
and really sets you up for success. when you're thinking about how you architect it upfront to manage costs, to make sure that Snowflake is working for you both from a cost and a performance perspective, and think about how am I going to track cost, or how am I going to cordon off usage into certain areas so that it's easier to track cost. It sometimes can feel like when you're just trying to get something started that feels overwhelming, but if it's a really small thing, you can still go through those steps. It might just only take you like an hour to think about it instead of like, a whole few days. So I would encourage anyone, like, do these steps. Like, I think they're great steps to go through, and you can scale them down to the size of your project.
It's like, doing a routine health check, right, for your data environment, which is needed, like at least do a yearly, like we do for our bodies, like a yearly health check, do that, look at all the metrics and see where it needs help. And, I have a saying that in data world, we don't like to stay still. Like we don't like to be standing, we like to be moving. So you need to keep moving, keep, continuous optimization of your platform.
Awesome. Those were all very, very good tips. If we have about 3 minutes. If we have one question in the chat, if you have any questions, please drop them. But as we start to wrap up, I would love to thank the three of you for just sharing your thoughts, your experience, and your advice for others who are trying to get started or continue investing sustainably with tools like Snowflake. Thank you so much. And I'm sure if people have questions, they can reach out and connect on LinkedIn just to continue learning from all of the wonderful things that you've shared.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. I feel like I've learned more from this, so I really appreciate that. Thank you all.
Like it's like we are not alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would just end it with it like Snowflake. If you go to Snowflake, if you go to the docs, snowflake.com, or you go to, the quick start.snowflake.com, there's tons of resources out there which you can learn from. Join the communities, Snowflake communities, join the vendor communities, and it's a great network of Snowflake and the vendors together. And there's great resources available there to learn.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate this. The webinar is being recorded and will be available. But thank you. If you have any questions about Women in Analytics or about Keebo, we have the information linked in the slides, and you can find more at womeninalytics.com. And sign up for our newsletter if you would like to learn more about future events just like this. Thank you all so much, and have
Thank
a
you,
great
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Bye-bye.